Okay, so we are ready to go. Welcome everyone to this session on positive mindset and how to use the female cycle to optimize your well-being, performance, joy, and fulfillment. This topic was an absolute game changer for me. And not many people are talking about this, unfortunately, but once you embrace and learn how to flow with your cycle, this is an absolute game changer. Let me know if this sounds familiar. 1 week, and this is obviously applies to ladies, and especially if you're in that menstruating age. Let me know if this sounds familiar. 1 week, you feel very optimistic, a lot of energy, you're not bothered about things going around, you want to try new things, you feel confident, you go to the gym, you're motivated, and 1 or 2 weeks later, suddenly out of nowhere, a wave of negative thoughts invades you, and you kind of hate yourself, the world, and pretty much anyone that dares cross your path. And let me ask you, does this correlate by any chance with your cycle? Because I would bet money that the answer is yes. There is the week leading towards period day, when all these negative thoughts, when all this, I hate myself and the world, and I just want to be on my own eating chocolate kicks in. And you're probably thinking, well, yeah, but that's what PMS is, right? So it is to be expected. It is normal. Well, let me tell you something. It is not normal. You don't deserve, and it is not to be expected to spend 1 week of the month, 1 week of your cycle in absolute misery. That's a lot of time. 1 week of the month is 25% of your time in misery. And no, and that's not how things should be. So this is not what we should expect as women, right? The reason why we are in misery is not because we are women and there's something wrong with that, or we just have to just to cope with our cycle and our hormones. The reason why we are in misery is because we don't understand what's going on. We don't understand the changes that we are going through, and we don't flow with them. Even worse, not only we don't understand it, we fight it and we repress it. And then, yeah, of course, we spend a week or sometimes even more of our cycle in misery because we're fighting our own nature. And not knowing what happens with the different energies is like, imagine you live in England like I do, and your wardrobe is full of only summery clothes. You're gonna have a great time in the summer, but when the winter comes and you only have flip-flops to wear, it's not gonna be very pleasant. And that's exactly the same. Not understanding the energy changes we go through as women is like seasons changing and not having the right clothes for it. Of course, is going to feel hard. Of course, it's going to feel like a struggle. And also, not only what's going on within us, but on top of that, we have all the collective beliefs about, not embracing the feminine energies, any collective belief or any individual belief that you might have developed about being a woman, being super hard, being something negative, the taboos about period, like even just mention the word period, I'm sure that some people here just listening to that word are becoming uncomfortable. That's how bad it is. A beautiful process, a natural process that we go through has become a taboo and something that is perceived as dirty and that we can't even talk about. So what I want to share with you today, we're going to be discussing any beliefs, resistance, around connecting with your feminine energy, self-acceptance, loving yourself. Of course, I'm going to be talking what happens in the cycle. And by the way, if you're not cycling anymore, I'm also going to be talking about the moon cycle, which we are also very related to. So that still applies for you. And also I'm going to be sharing how to embrace our cyclical nature, how to embrace our femininity, how to embrace all those different energies and how to make the most of them when they are heightened, and that becomes a game changer in terms of how well you perform, how fulfilled you feel, how healthy you feel, how joyful. It's an absolute game changer. So that's what we're going to be discussing in this session. I'm going to catch up with the comments because oh, sorry, this is not working. My mouse is not working, so I need to go back to the comments because I see a lot of excitement about this topic, and I am so excited. I honestly couldn't wait. I always love to be here with you guys, but for this session, I am so passionate about this topic that I was literally like, before I join the session, I can see a countdown and I can't start the live session before it gets to the time. And I was literally like, come on, I can't wait. Right, Luis is fascinated by this topic. Yeah, something resonated there. Started tracking my moods with the moon, with my period, helped me understand where I am. Yeah, definitely. We will definitely talk about the connection between the moon and our internal cycle. Kim is saying 100% I can identify ebbs and flows with my cycle surrounding ovulation and the bleed itself, especially, yeah, because those are the two key events in our cycle. So obviously the energies are going to be more intense. I was saying since perimenopause is more mixed and worse in the second half. Yeah, gonna be talking a lot about that. And Kim is saying, but I do listen to it and honor my body's needs now that I can identify. That's the thing, that very often the problem is just lack of knowledge. And I'm going to tell you a bit more about my story in a second. Yeah, some people are actually disgusted about these physiological topics. It's like, what is it about? So as soon as you start talking about blood, and you know, it's something natural. It's how God made us. We are perfectly, you know, it's a perfectly natural and beautiful part of our process. So yeah. Hi Ashley, welcome, and welcome everyone else. I can see more people joining now. So so let me give you a bit of context of how I came across this topic and how I became so fascinated about this topic. So I'm a mindset coach, and from the very beginning, I have mainly worked with women. And in my own personal journey, being a woman is something that I was always very, what's the word I want to use? I don't want to say I hated it, but it felt like a burden. That's the word I want to use. It felt like a burden, right? So when I embarked on my own personal healing and personal journey, obviously there was a lot about, you know, acceptance and understanding who I was, and I came across this topic of the female cycle and cycle syncing and all these things, and I thought, this is interesting, because I've always thought about my period as something that, you know, it's awful. I just have to put up with it. It's such a burden to be a woman. I wish I hadn't have to go through this, and I never saw anything good in it. So it caught my attention, but I was very, very skeptical, very, very skeptical. And so and especially because I started my career in consulting and banking, so very male-dominated industry. And I guess throughout also my teenage years, because I went through a lot of rejection, which is, you know, not for today's topic, but I kind of created a mask around me and this like strong, kind of like more masculine energy. And then, yeah, of course, in banking, consultancy, male-dominated environment, that's what you need to do. Or that's what I thought I needed to do to be successful, right? So when I started learning more about this, I was like, oh, wait a minute, because yeah, if God made us this way, it can't be just because God doesn't like us, you know, and we are supposed to suffer, and we are supposed to be in pain, and we are supposed to go through all these sometimes cataloged as psychological problems. No, we are not. But no one taught me. No one ever taught me. And I will bet money that a lot of you didn't grow up with a female role model that taught you about femininity, that taught you what happened in your cycle, that taught you what is different, and that taught you how to make the most of it, and how to embrace it. The linear model, you have probably experienced that the linear model about, for example, waking up every day at 6 a.m. or doing the same workout in the gym every day to get super fit, or working the same hours every day or having the same rhythm of work, doesn't work. It doesn't work because we don't have that linear energy. We have a cyclical nature, so we need to adjust to it. And I thought, let me give it a try. Let me give it a try. And of course, the first thing I had to do was go through a lot of resistance about the beliefs I had about being a woman and femininity and feminine energy. A lot of it, actually, I took the pill for so many years without even having any problems, just because my period hurt and I thought it would be just more comfortable. And only later I realized that that's basically like chemical castration. I know this is going to sound hard, but that's literally what I was doing to my body. If you stop your natural hormones and you stop ovulating, which is the event that leads to conception, and if you're stopping that and that is not happening in your body, and you're just creating some pseudo hormones to give you an artificial bleed, because that's what being on the pill does. Imagine when I started to read about this, like how it blew my mind, and how I was like, oh my God, this is what I have been doing to my body. So I had to fight through a lot of resistance and obviously learn and how do you say, unlearn, things that I thought that were okay, but actually weren't. So before we even start talking about the different energies we go through during our monthly cycle with the moon and throughout our life, because obviously we start, developing, then we become fertile, then we are not fertile anymore. So that's also like a longer cycle, but it's very relevant for us, and to know how to flow with that. So before we go into the details of that, which we are definitely going to go into because it's fascinating, I would like to invite you to reflect on the beliefs you hold about being a woman, or if you're a man, about just about women or about the feminine energy in general, with no judgment, because we're not here to judge. There are no good or bad beliefs. It's just a bit of time for self-reflection to see what's coming up and see which ones you would like to keep and which ones are no longer serving you. And for that, actually, I'm going to invite you to close your eyes for a few moments, because if we do it like that, you might know some things already, but it's going to come a lot from the conscious mind. So I'm going to invite you to close your eyes for a second. Take a few deep breaths, any movements to the body that make you feel comfortable. Visualize yourself in your feminine power, embracing all those feminine qualities that we're going to be discussing more about in a second. Loving yourself as a woman, being proud of being a woman. And see how the body reacts to that. See if there's any resistance, any inner voice that says, this is nonsense. Being a woman is not good. It's a pain. It's a burden. It's difficult. It's unfair. I don't know, anything that might come to your awareness, just embrace it. Might be a sensation in the body, something more physical, more kinesthetic, maybe more of a visual. Maybe a part of yourself comes to the scene and wants to say something. And just write down anything that might have come to your awareness. And again, with no judgment. Actually, if anything came up for you that you weren't aware of, congratulations. because it's coming to your conscious mind. It means that it's ready to be released. And that's the idea. We keep, you know, all our life is kind of a healing journey. So we keep identifying beliefs that are serving us, beliefs that are not serving us, and then it means you can do something about them. So that's great. Jenny's saying, I was blown away when I learned this, and I'm trying to teach my kids. I was taught that that was normal to do if you have mood and pain problems. Yeah, absolutely. So I'm glad that you're teaching that to your kids. And I think these days, some people are becoming more, I think there is a small movement of reclaiming that feminine energy and teaching that to the new generation. So well done. I think you're doing a wonderful job. And yeah, that's the thing. Oh, if you have period pain, that's normal. Yeah, it's just period pain. That's what you have to expect. Oh, you have problems before the period. Yeah, it's called PMS. Yeah. You have a headache, take this tablet. You have this problem. Yeah, take the pill. That's normal. Take a pill. You have a problem, you fix it. You take a pill and that's it. But then we are repressing our own nature and we are fighting our own bodies. The reality is that even though our energies are different, if there is pain, if there is discomfort, if there is anxiety, if there is suffering at any point in the cycle, and I mean, anytime, right? It's just a sign of the body saying something is not right. And obviously for women, the reproductive system and our hormones and our cycle is one of the ways that is most visible. You know, for men, it can also happen that obviously if there are any beliefs, any problems, any repressed emotions, it's going to show up in the body eventually as well. But for us women, a very, very, very obvious way where it shows is through our cycle and all these type of problems, headaches, mood swings, anxiety, food cravings, pain, you know, all these wonderful things that we are told that it's normal to expect and that we just have to put up with. So no, ladies, no, there is a way out of it. There is a way out of it. And it's just about understanding and embracing our cyclical nature. So before we move on to that, if some beliefs, you know, about being a woman, about feminine energy have come up, one of the things that I'm definitely going to recommend, I have lots of resources and especially energetic techniques that I use to reprogram your subconscious mind and to clear those blocks and those beliefs. So every week I have a Monday session that combines either tapping, emotional freedom technique. You've probably heard about that technique to release energetic blocks. It combines also breathing and theta healing, a type of meditation and healing technique that really helps reprogram the subconscious mind and write the story. This is the core of the work I do. The mindset work that I do is based on these deep healing techniques. So if you resonate with this idea, feel free to follow me here to join my live events on those topics. Today I really want to focus on the cycle and the different energies, because it's something that I haven't covered here before actually, but just to let you know that I have more resources on that you can check out if anything, you know, if any beliefs or any ideas came to mind. And some of them will be individual, you know, based on, I always say, when you identify a belief or a block or a part of yourself that is sabotaging you, I always say, let's go to the root. Let's go to the moment where you made that decision. And sometimes the decision about being a woman not being good, being a problem, being a burden, being a pain, being unfair, very often will come from an early age. But in this case, it can be a very generational, inherited, collective belief, right? There is a big element of that when it comes to any beliefs that you might hold, because there is a lot of collective programming around it, right? So we're not only talking about individual upbringing, but we are also talking about being exposed to years and years and years and years and years of not being respected, of being abused, or being taken advantage of being repressed. You know, a lot of the feminine energies and feminine traditions that I'm going to be talking about in a second were completely repressed because they were considered to be dangerous, because men didn't understand them. So like, sounds too dangerous, too powerful, let's get rid of it. So there is also that ancestral element that we have inherited, you know, that needs healing and that we need to let go of before you can fully step into your power in a feminine way. And I made a course on that called Awaken Your Feminine Power. No, Awaken Your Inner Power the Feminine Way, right? So before you can step into that power, before you can embrace those different skills, the beauty of what being a woman involves, despite a lot of women thinking that it's a burden and is, you know, it's difficult and it's hard, and there is a really beautiful element. And in order to embrace that and to really make the most of that, first we need to let go of all that programming, individual, collective, you know, wounds. A lot of healing needs to happen before you can really embrace that power. So having said all that, maybe let's talk now about what happens in the cycle and the different energies and how that connects with the energies that you might have experienced with the moon cycle as well. So there are two main events in the female cycle. When you get your period, so the bleed, and ovulation, and they happen kind of 2 weeks apart from each other. So you probably, when you feel optimistic and you're not bothered about other people and you just do your thing and you feel good and you feel happy, very likely, I would bet money, is after your period, and yeah, maybe after ovulation, before period happens again. So what happens is, because when we have a period, by the way, having our period is a really cleansing experience. That's how women cleanse and drain and let go of emotions, anything. It's kind of like a detoxification, like a detoxifying period of the month. In Chinese medicine, it's fascinating. They talk about how each day of the period we are detoxifying and cleansing different emotions in different organs, you know, different elements. So this has been known for millennia. You know, it's only starting to come back to, but this is not something new. I mean, this is something that all traditions have known for thousands of years. So it is a very cleansing time of the month. And then because our hormones change and they drop, it's normal to feel tired. Obviously, you're bleeding. So yeah, you are normally going to feel more tired. You're cleansing, you're detoxifying. So it's normal to feel more tired. And then towards ovulation, our hormones change and then our body starts to prepare. And it's that part of it's the time of the month when we're like, yeah, it's like you probably experience that surge of energy. I definitely do experience that really boost of energy after my period, or even the first few days of my period. I already start to feel that boost of energy. And then you find, and then suddenly, obviously you go through ovulation. Some women experience during ovulation maybe more intense emotions, some physical changes. But then it's when we go towards after ovulation, we enter, we could call between period and ovulation kind of like an expansive, young, upwards phase. And then between ovulation and period again, it's like that kind of like contractive, going within, yin, maybe needing more sleep, having other qualities part of the cycle. So we flow through this cycle here and through these different energies. Now, what happens? That everyone loves that kind of expansive phase, that young part of the cycle. Everyone loves it because you feel great, you feel more optimism. Estrogen is one of the hormones that is responsible for this. As it rises and rises and rises towards ovulation, it gives you that boost of confidence, of energy, of motivation. And then when it starts to drop, then the changes start to kick in, right? Everyone loves the expansive part of the cycle. But then the other one is a bit more tricky. When instinctively and naturally we are drawn to kind of withdraw and to go within and to do the inner work, then things get tricky. Why? Because if you live in this world, and especially if you work in the corporate world, it's very male dominated. So the energy is very linear. We are expected to function the same way every day of the day, because men don't go through that cycle. So they don't understand it. It's not a thing for them. So they don't have to worry about it. They don't have to do anything differently. It works for them, but it doesn't work for us. And because the qualities and the skills that are celebrated in this world are more related to logical thinking, achieving goals, doing, rational, all these type of skills, those are the ones that are celebrated, then we feel okay during that part of the cycle. But then the other one, because it involves the more intuitive, that wild energy, we struggle, because who cares about that? We are not taught how to harness the potential that lies within that phase of the cycle. And therefore we think there's something wrong with us. And then we make ourselves miserable for no reason, because there is no reason to be miserable. We were perfect. And same as men. Men were perfectly built. Women were perfectly built. And if men embraced their power and their masculinity and their uniqueness, and women embraced their power and their femininity and their uniqueness, then when we come together, we are pure fire. That sacred union is true power. So also this talk is not about, women are better than men, or this is about, we are different. And when we know our strengths, and we play to our strengths, and we collaborate, and we fill in the gaps with each other's weakness. So when we come to this sacred union and to this alchemy, then we come unstoppable. It's really, really powerful. It's that teamwork can be really, 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 really powerful. But for that, we need to be us. We can't be, and this applied to me. I was trying to be a man in a woman's body. It didn't work for me. Obviously, it didn't work for me because it wasn't my nature. I wanted to be all the time in that masculine energy, and it's not my nature. But when we embrace our uniqueness, our differences, and come together as a team, poof, that's real, real power. We can give birth to other human beings. How magical is that? So let me talk a bit more about the different energies that we go through during the cycle. One of the things that I found fascinating is when I learned more about moon lodges and how in ancient traditions, women would come together during their period days, and just come together to rest and meditate and just use that time to, to understand the dreams and to share that information, just to be together. And that has been lost. Unfortunately, it has been lost, but there was a beautiful element of embracing those days of the period they would call moon lodges. And I found it fascinating, because actually the time of the month when we get our period, if we have a healthy, and this, of course, I'm talking, in a healthy body, in a healthy, environment. Obviously, if there are any health problems is going to show up as different symptoms. But assuming a relatively good level of health, your period shouldn't come with pain. It shouldn't come with headaches. It shouldn't come with vomiting. It shouldn't come with a week of hating yourself and hating the world. The period was actually a phase. Well, it is. Before it was valued and celebrated, but period days is the time of the cycle where women become super intuitive, where the intuition is heightened. So if you allow yourself to take the time to rest and to really allow that cleansing energy to just go through you and embrace the bleeding, the blood, that process, you can access levels of intuition that you can't access other times of the month. One of the heightened skills is intuition or clairvoyance abilities. Obviously, if you're in pain, in agony, just trying to survive, no, you're not going to be in touch with your intuition. If you're just having 3 extra coffees that day, fighting your own nature, you're not going to be in that intuitive mode, or you're not going to be able to connect with that inner wisdom. And because women knew it before, they would use to gather. So the young women who were menstruating would go to these moon lodges, and then the wiser ones after menopause would be, because they had become well, I'm going to talk about that in a second, they would be helping them and just giving them food and helping them rest, and and listening to any dreams, any visions, any intuitive messages that they might have been getting. How wonderful is that? How wonderful is that? Imagine the level of intuition, the level of connection you could achieve if every 28 or 29 days you went on a 2-3 day retreat where you are taken care of, and all you do is rest and connect with your inner power. And then what they would do, that would be very valuable, because then in the tribe, men would use that information to make decisions. Okay, so what about this other tribe? Can we trust them or not? Do we need to suspect anything? Do we need to be prepared for any catastrophes or for war? They would use that information to make decisions. So it is a really, really, really powerful time of the month. And this very often happens. No, that's not true. It should happen with the new moon. It used to happen with the new moon, because the energy of the new moon and the full moon match the energies of menstruation and ovulation. So towards the new moon, which again is kind of like a yin energy, kind of like stillness, lower energy, and this applies to everyone. This applies to women who menstruate. This applies to women who don't menstruate anymore. And if you don't menstruate anymore, you might feel that you are more in sync with the energies of the moon if you track that, if you follow that. And this applies to men as well. Men are always are also affected by the different energies of the moon. But as women, we have a stronger connection with that celestial body, if that makes sense. So it would be that dark time of the month, which is more about retrieving. Like, imagine when we lived in a world of no artificial lights, our body rhythms depending a lot on the natural light. So that would be obviously the sun, waking up to the sunrise and going to sleep after sunset. But the moon was also a big element of that. So the days when, especially in the night, there was dark moon, those days would be darker in nature, and therefore people will be naturally have more tendency to to do the inner work, to retrieve, to withdraw, to kind of like be at home, be with themselves. Whereas full moon, bright full moon in the air, and the different energies, the rising energy, the yang energy that it brings, it was used to do all the ceremonies, celebration, parties. So people were really in touch with this cycle of the moon and the lights and just nature in general. They were very aligned with nature. So optimally, and I read how in Chinese medicine they even use it as a way of contraception. So to maximize, to optimize fertility, ideally the woman would menstruate with the new moon and ovulate with the full moon for better health of the child upon conception. So all these, shamanic traditions, Chinese medicine, Ayurveda, like all these traditions that have been going on for centuries, thousands of years, from a different angle or one way or another, but they all seem to kind of agree on, what to do with the cyclical process, and how to flow with it. So period day. So let me tell you a bit more about the different energies that happen throughout the cycle. So we talked about period days and how the intuition is heightened. And in ancient traditions, they would go to these moon lodges and make the most of it. Then obviously towards ovulation, energy rises. So the skills that are heightened are the more, let's say, yang qualities. So anything that has to do with problem solving, logical skills, or logical thinking, anything that requires physical work or physical activity. If I go to the gym between my period and ovulation, I know I can do weights. I just put the music on and I can go for a long run. Before my period, I start to feel the energy going down. So we have those days where the intuition, clairvoyant skills are optimal. So it's when we should be working towards developing them and making the most of them. Then we have that phase of logical thinking, hard work, having more energy in the body. Towards around ovulation and after ovulation, the social skills, you might find yourself being very social, wanting to spend a lot of time with people, and there is a reason for that actually. If around ovulation, because it's the time of conception, is when women would be more, you probably have noticed your sex drive going really much higher than other times of the month, because naturally ovulation is the event, is the moment when you conceive. So your body prepares for that, and your body has more sex drive, is looking at socializing, is looking at finding the right partner. Also, because it's the time where the body decides if it's going to get pregnant or not. It's about building those relationships. Oh, I might have a baby. This might be about to happen. So let's build that network of support. So everything makes sense, really. It doesn't happen randomly. And then after that, our energy starts to decline. And then something happens that I find really fascinating, as well as a big challenge. There is a book called Wild Power, by the way, that I would encourage every woman to read. It's wonderful. And it talks about this time, about the inner critic, that inner critic getting out of control. And that's exactly what happens as our energy starts to decrease. We might even feel like eating different foods because the vitamins we need for our body processes, the needs are different. So you might also find yourself craving different foods. Now, if all you crave all the time is chocolate or crisps or pizza, that's a different story. But you might find yourself, the one week you really enjoy one dish, and the week after is like, oh, I want to have something. Wild Power. I can remember. Let me see if I can. It's this book here, Wild Power. I think you're probably saying the other way around. It's by Alexandra Pope and Shani Ugo. Yeah, Wild Power. It's really, really, really good book. I also love the work of Miranda Gray. Miranda Gray is really, really great. And she has a book that I believe is called Optimised Woman. And it's amazing, very practical. So yeah, these resources all talk about the different energies, how to make the most of it. Yes, Jay, this is being recorded. I will probably upload it to the YouTube channel with the video version. Where was I? Lost my track of thinking. The inner critic. The inner critic. So in Wild Power, they talk about those days, and that's a real challenge, or at least for me, from personal experience, but also from the clients I work with. I know that those days are a real challenge. The inner critic, or those critical skills that get heightened because imagine when you're cleaning a room, the first thing you want to do, if you're going to give it a deep cleanse, the first thing you want to do is declutter, right? And throw away anything that you don't need anymore, to make space for new things, right? In the cycle, you're like, right, okay, I want to improve this room. So what do I need to do? Okay, I need to paint the wall. I want to buy a beautiful vase with flowers, or I need more books. So the first thing you need to do is have a look and see what is occupying space that is not needed. And then you throw it away, and then you can start making an improvement. So our cycle is the same. It's like, we're going to go through this beautiful cleansing and detoxifying process. Before it starts, we need to become aware of what's not working for us, of what we need to let go of. And that's why the inner critic gets super heightened. Now, what happens is that, because first, we might not expect it. I didn't expect it because I didn't know about this. No one had taught me about this. So I had no idea why certain days of the month I was so critical and so harsh. And what happens that we direct it to ourselves, and then we make our lives miserable, and then we hate ourselves, and then we just, hide under a blanket and eat chocolate, and then we regret it, and then a couple of weeks later everything feels fine. So it's, okay, and then you forget about it. So that time, that kind of like inner critic, I also like to think about it as a wild energy. It becomes a bit of no filters type of energy, if you know what I mean. And it's difficult to handle because, or it can be difficult to handle because, we are not taught what to do with it. And it's not something that is valued or appreciated in society in general. Slowing down, who cares about that? We need to achieve, we need to make money, we need to work, do. So this whole moment of going within, and seeing what energies come up. And the inner critic is a great tool. When you use it, when you are the CEO of the inner critic and not the other way around, it can be a very powerful tool, because it's like your eyes get wide open and you start to see a lot of things that are not working in your life. And if you pay attention, you will probably notice that you have an urge to clean. And this happens to me very often. I'm like, right, okay, making space for new things. As you approach to those cleansing, kind of like more magical, intuitive parts of the cycle, you want to get rid of clutter. You want to get rid of what is not serving you, because you're going into that sacred energy. So very often, I feel like cleaning a lot. Like I suddenly start seeing, clutter and dust, and I look around, I'm like, this needs to be done. And I have that urgency to do it. So using that energy in a positive way, in a control way, when you are the one that's in control, can be really, 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 really useful. Really, really useful. So I want to share with you also some tips, some practical tips that you can apply to heighten these energies even more. Changes you can make in your routine, small tweaks or adjustments that you can make to really make the most of it, and to really go with the wave like you were surfing. When you're surfing, you're not trying to control the wave. The surfer doesn't go, oh, I want to surf for 1 minute and I want to go at this speed. And no, the surfer just flows with the wave and navigates the wave. And that's how you can stay up, right? So it's the same. So I'm going to share with you some practical tips. Let me know how this is landing, by the way, because I've been talking for a long time now. So I would love to hear how this is landing. If you have any questions, anything else that you might want to share, any insights, feel free to share that in the chat. So yeah, so to sum up what we have so far, our energies change during our cycle. There is a big element of the impact that our inner and physical biological cycle has in our mindset, in our emotions, in our energy levels, in the skills that are heightened. We also have the connection with the moon. And when I said the ideally the bleeding, the period should happen with the new moon, it doesn't mean that it has to be, that there are many other factors. Don't think that there's something wrong. Some people, like in Chinese medicine, for example, some resources that I have studied talk about synchronizing it as much as possible. But in some ancient traditions also talk about how sometimes when women were menstruating with the full moon rather than the new moon, then those intuitive skills that were heightened because of the period, because of the bleeding, and because the energies around the full moon are more intense, that could be like a really, really, really powerful moment for spiritual development and awakenings. And right, so don't think that there's something wrong. If I want you to take a message from this talk, is just to listen to your body, is that there is nothing wrong with your body. Just embrace your different energies. Just learn about your body, how your body. There are lots of resources out there. The books I've mentioned, but there are lots of resources out there to learn more about your body, and how to honor that process and how to make the most of that process. So yeah, if you don't have a cycle anymore, you will probably be influenced by the rhythm of the moon. And we also have the long-term cycle that we need to honor and respect. And this is something that I really want to mention, especially for the ladies who have had their menopause already. It makes me really sad and very angry when I hear people talk about menopause like a big problem, and again, like something normal, that they have to experience all these symptoms and feel bad, and how it's like a bad moment for women, because it's like, oh, you're not fertile anymore, you're not young anymore, so what's there for you in life? I really hate it, because actually in ancient traditions, when women reach the menopause, after that transition, of course, the body needs to adjust. So after that transition, because you're not bleeding anymore and you're not losing all that energy, just in case you get pregnant, you can direct all that energy and all the power within. And very often after the menopause is when women have the most amazing spiritual awakening, and they can develop all these intuitive clairvoyant skills. And in ancient traditions, it's after that they would become, shamans and healer, and these powerful beings and spiritual leaders. So yeah, so I hate to see how people talk about menopause like being something bad, and because it's a wonderful time of, especially of spiritual development for women. So yeah, so we also go through this longer term cycle throughout our life that we often forget to honor, and to understand that in every part of our life there are skills, and there is beauty, and there is wisdom. Yeah, Jen, that's absolutely wonderful. I've learned my productive days and set deadlines at work around those. I'm struggling a bit um, uh, into perimenopause to do this. Yeah, of course, when there is a change and your cycle starts to get shorter or the symptoms, yeah, you need to keep adjusting things. But yeah, that's exactly what I'm going to talk about next, like practical tips on how to make adjustments so you can flow with your cycle, so you can be more productive and you can have more joy in your life rather than the misery that comes through fighting our own nature and repressing our own nature. And I could be talking about this topic for hours and hours and hours if you let me, but I don't want to bore you with a lot of things. I'll probably do another one. If you guys like it, let me know. And it's a topic that I will bring again, like maybe for more deeper conversations, or maybe to do a ceremony, like something that will be just for women and to like really connect, and maybe to do, yeah, maybe that's something that I should bring to these live sessions, actually, a bit of a kind of like ceremonial space for us to connect with that. So yeah, let me know if you fancy that, and I will think about it. So yeah, keep saying it is a topic that excites me too. I would love a ceremonial space. Yeah, because that's so, I think that is so important. I used to run a women's circle here where I live. And I stopped because I got really busy with other things, and because I want to be traveling more, like having something in person was a bit limiting in terms of the people I can reach and in terms of how to organize. But yeah, I absolutely love running those circles, because the magic that comes from women coming together in a safe, sacred space where they can really be themselves and not be judged and not feel like there is a threat, and yeah, that it's absolutely wonderful. And I think men should do the same, by the way, and have their own men's circles, because they go through different challenges to us, right? So yeah, so having that separate time, you know, to connect as women, as men, because we go through different challenges, because we are different, because we need a different form of connection. We don't need the same, we don't need the same, we don't have the same needs. So even though it would be nice to also have, you know, like a ceremonial space and a circle where everyone comes together, but I think having those separate spaces is really rich. And yeah, now it's like, no, you can't have a space that is only for women, you can't have a space that is only for men. Why? We are different, we have different needs. It's the beauty of this, and this is what people used to do in ancient traditions, and I believe that they knew a bit more than a lot of people think that they know these days. But anyway, that's a rant for another day. So practical tips to kind of wrap up the session, because we've been going on for almost an hour, but like I said, I could talk about this topic for hours. So let me share with you some practical tips to make your life easier during the cycle. So I'm going to be talking about yeah, obviously the energies around the key events, which are period and ovulation. Also, knowing that the energies around that are heightened during our period would match the energy of the new moon, and the ones around ovulation would match the energy of the full moon. So you might be impacted by both, just by one. You might feel that you are more connected to what I've heard women say, that they don't notice a strong correlation with the moon cycle, and some say that they feel more connected to the moon cycle than their own inner cycle. So we're all different. So just, you know, from now on, just track this. That's the first recommendation. That's the first thing I'm going to invite you to do, to track your different energy levels, how you feel, your thoughts, what you feel like eating, what you feel like doing, what you're good at, what feels more like a burden or something that doesn't come naturally to you. Track that. When you have that information, then you can start noticing certain patterns. And then from there, you can make adjustments that work for you. So for me, for example, around my period days, obviously, if I have sessions in the calendar, I'm not going to cancel my clients. I'm not going to cancel my coaching sessions. So I got my period, so I can't be bothered. I'll see you in a few days. No, I'm not going to do that out of respect for my clients. But other than, you know, priority tasks, if I have anything else in the calendar, and especially social activities, a dance class that I was planning to go to, I let it go because I know I'm not going to enjoy it like I would normally do. If I had planned a workout or to go for a run, I know I'm going to struggle. I know I'm not going to be at my highest level of energy. So I prefer to do something quieter, something that is less energy demanding. I set aside more time for meditation, and it's when I like to do a lot of journaling to see what insights come up. I very often feel like, and you probably like, I've had a terribly painful period for most of my life. So trust me, if you're like crying on the floor, I've been there. I hear you. So yeah, maybe that you want to work towards improving that first before you can go into the, you know, the deeper layers of intuition and inner wisdom. But what might happen is that as a result of flowing more with your circle and loving yourself more as a woman, that period pain goes away and fades away, and it becomes more manageable. And here, obviously, I'm talking about assuming there are no other health problems that are causing, you know, the symptoms. So yeah, more time for meditation, more time for journaling. Any ideas that come to me, I don't implement them, but I take lots of notes about any ideas I might get. Lots of self-love, quiet time. Sometimes I feel that I live with my husband. So he's the person I spend most time with, and sometimes he's talking to me and I feel like I'm in that kind of like state of, I'm in my own world and I'm not listening to you. And I'm really sorry, because I mean, now he understands this because I have explained it to him, but it's a bit like, I'm not there. I'm not here. I'm just, you know, I'm lost in my own thoughts. I don't feel like talking much. It's just like, you know, I just want to have that kind of like inner like retreat, you know, go within and just be in my own world. And yeah, obviously, you know, sometimes there are commitments that you won't be able to say no to, but sometimes even small adjust. What's wrong with me saying the word adjustment today? Sometimes just small adjustments can make the world of a difference. So then when I'm over that phase and I start to feel my energy rising up, then yeah, sometimes I work longer hours because, and I don't feel like I'm overworking, or I just can't, I just want to make the most of it because I am so productive, and I can be like having 7 coaching calls, but also working on my website, but I can also be dealing with the admin stuff that I really hate other weeks. So I really go with it. And sometimes, yeah, I work longer hours because I know that when I'm not flowing, I'm not going to force myself to do it. So if I really feel like I'm on it, I just go with it. I try to add more physical activity because actually, for me, sometimes what happens is that I have so much energy, the boost of energy feels so strong, and it can be a bit too much. And I can get too much in my head and thinking too much and planning too much. So I also need to manage that to kind of like to be in balance, right? But yeah, I very often just, yeah, if I have to work longer hours to make the most of it, I'm very happy to do it because I know that I'm really going to make a lot of progress. And then as soon as I start to go down and I feel like my energy levels are going down, I don't punish myself. I don't try to follow the same routine. I know that if I'm more tired, maybe I don't feel like doing weight workouts or going for a long work. If I need to sleep more, I do sleep more. I don't have a problem with that. I have released any beliefs about, oh, if you sleep more, you're lazy, you have to be available for everyone. Who has time for that? Honestly, we need to let go of these beliefs. And if your body is asking you to rest more for 2 or 3 days, give it to it, because that And sometimes what happens to me is that when I just try to keep the same energy levels, you know, the few days before my period or the days during my period, and I just, you know, I haven't had coffee for years, but years ago, maybe I would just have like an extra coffee or just force myself to do it. Then I would be feeling like I'm dragging, you know, like the rest of the month. I don't get that boost of energy. It's like I need that deep rest when my body knows how to use it to then get to that peak of energy that is unbelievable. But if you don't rest when your body is asking you to rest, then this peak of energy, this potential that you can reach, is going to be you're gonna be feeling like you're just, yeah, like you're carrying a baggage all the time if you don't live in sync with what your body needs. So the inner critic, that extremely critical thinking, you probably notice that you get emotionally triggered more often, or that the emotional response or the emotional triggers are way more intense. And I always say this is an invitation. Emotional triggers, as annoying as they might be, are invitations. They're presenting you with an opportunity to let go or to heal something that is not resolved. So when you use that critical thinking, you know, to make a list of, right, this is the list of things that are not working for me. This is not working in my life. This needs to improve, but I'm going to wait. Now, normally what I do is, right, okay, so I can see that. I can see this. I don't like this and I don't like that. And yeah, I'm okay, fair enough. But it's okay. First of all, approach it with this is a temporary situation thing, because it's very easy to fall in that hole thinking or forgetting that it lasts a few days, that is just temporary. It will pass, right? So remember, it's going to pass. It's not that suddenly you've gone crazy. It's not that suddenly you're developing mental health problems. No, it's just 2 days, 3 days, a day, depending on the person, where certain energies are heightened, and it's just about managing them. So yeah, anything that comes up, you know, write it down. Anything you see around and it's changing, you know, a lot of journaling around this time of the month is really great to let that out, rather than, you know, like maybe starting an argument or directing even that critical thinking towards yourself. Be very, 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 very careful with directing that critical thinking towards yourself. This is what causes a lot of problems. This is what, and then people say, oh, you go to the doctor, you tell them this, they're going to put you on antidepressants, very likely. And, you know, instead of being or directing that critical energy towards yourself, instead of letting those emotional triggers take over out of hand, just see it as an invitation, right? Why am I getting so triggered today? Okay, it's really bothering you. It's really bothering me that my husband is watching football. Okay, so why is this bothering me so much today? They kind of want to kill him. What's going on here? What is this reminding me of? Oh, this reminds me of when my dad used to go and watch football, and we would have to be waiting for him, and he wouldn't take me because I'm a girl. Oh, so very interesting. Something to heal, right? Something, an invitation for you to go deeper and understanding where that's coming from. That's a topic that I cover in a lot of my live sessions, and, you know, in the resources I have already. So yeah, so if you come to other of my sessions, or if you've come before, you know, I'm always talking about this topic, if this is something that you feel that you need to do. But yeah, the key here is don't direct that critical energy towards yourself, being harsh with yourself, hating yourself. No, just make a list of things that need to change. And it might well be that you want to change something about yourself. Okay, with love and compassion, no judgment here. And then this is kind of a way to prepare into the cleansing, detoxifying time that the period offers for us. And same thing, you might want to, with the moon, you might want to, you know, around the new moon, maybe it's not the time to run a marathon, then maybe it's not the time to do the most intense physical work. It's a good time for intuition to connect within. Full moon, it's a great time to go out. Sometimes I see like big parties, and very often, I'm sure they don't do it on purpose, but very often they are around this more naturally, just because people feel it. There's more activity around the full moon, interestingly enough, even without planning it, or even without trying to do it with a conscious intention, but just because naturally is when the body is asking you to do those things. So in terms of work, for example, I plan my work around my different energies. Obviously, like I said, if I have coaching sessions in the calendar, I'm not going to cancel them. But I try to go all the type of work. I try to fit it in when it suits me best. And even though you're thinking, oh, so then that means that I might have to take 3 days of work every month. No, it doesn't mean that you have to take 3 days of work every month, but maybe if you slow down, or if you focus on the tasks that you're going to be best at, then it doesn't matter if you're postponing them a few days, because you're going to be much better at it. So it's just about playing, obviously, with what you works, and depending on the flexibility of schedule and managing your time that you might have. But yeah, I definitely do manage my work, my trips, for example. Obviously, it's very difficult to know long time in advance, but if I'm planning like a day trip or a weekend out and I have an idea, I might look into that as well. And yeah, especially be very aware of the inner critic, kind of like wild energy, and how to process that, and how to manage, because I find that that's the most challenging part for most women. So I know I've shared a lot of information at you, and I could go on for hours, but I'm gonna leave it here as a wrap up. Of course, I would love to hear in the comments if you have any questions, if you have any insights to share. So I'm happy to hang around for a bit longer. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed this talk, and that you found it useful. And yeah, like I say, if I want you to take a message from this session, is just to listen to yourself. It's that there is nothing wrong with you. Just listen to your body, and embrace the beautiful nature, and that means being a woman. So yeah, thank you so much for everyone who was here today. Feel free to follow me on Insight Timer, so you can be notified of new events like this one, new recorded content, new courses. I have a few courses available as well. Next week, I have 2 live events. So from now on, I'm going to try to keep them on a regular basis, Monday and Thursday around this time. So I'm not changing the time every week, but yeah, sometimes I have different commitments or bits of work. But yeah, I'm going to try to keep them Mondays and Thursdays. So the idea is to have one shorter session that is more energy based. So tapping or emotional freedom technique, theta healing, a guided meditation, breathing exercises, all forms of like energy work, more experiential work. That is the one that can help you achieve the deepest level of transformation, big shifts, rather than just trying to rationalize, what the problem is and where it came from. And then on Thursdays, I will be doing some longer sessions like this one to cover a specific topic, and also a more open discussion with practical tips. So if there are any topics that you would like me to cover, feel free to let me know, because I listen to your suggestions. And thank you so much, guys, for following me, for being here, for joining these sessions, for your feedback, your ratings, your reviews, your donations, all very welcome and much appreciated. And yeah, just let me know if you are facing any specific challenges. Feel free to send me a message, because I'm always happy to point you to specific resources. I have lots of recorded content already that I can point you towards. So yeah, so feel free to reach out. I always love to hear from you. So you're saying, I'd like to hear you talk about after menopause. Yeah, that's the thing, that because I haven't experienced menopause myself, I don't feel like I am the best person to, you know, to guide someone who is going through that process, because I haven't been there myself. What I have mentioned in this workshop, you know, it's from kind of like a theory point of view. I could probably share some things, you know, that would be useful, but yeah, I will feel a bit like maybe you would look at me like, yeah, of course, you're not experiencing the challenges I'm going through, so what can you share with me? But yeah, like what I've shared in this workshop is that it makes me very sad. You know, how people think about menopause being something bad, and you know, having to expect all these problems, and when I actually believe that it is like a new age for women, right? And when women can experience this amazing spiritual awakening and developing all these skills. So yeah, my message is of there is a lot of wisdom in there, and that is a beautiful part of the life of a woman. So don't let anyone tell you otherwise or treat you otherwise. But yeah, but definitely something I'm going to be covering a lot when I experience that, because yeah, I know a lot of women are struggling. But yeah, but if you guys have any specific questions, please feel free to reach out. Okay, my loves, so I'm gonna wrap it up here. Thank you so much for being here. Feel free to follow me, connect with me so we can stay in touch. And I will see you next on Monday for the next live session. And yeah, keep an eye on recorded content, courses, and other resources that I'm always creating for you. Okay, my loves, have a wonderful rest of your day. Sending much love and light to you all. Bye-bye.